I've used a lot of angle grinders over the years. I'm going to review this drillmaster grinder. There's a lot of different tools that you can use on an angle grinder. This is a cutoff wheel. This is a grinding disc. It's a lot thicker. All the angle grinders that I've seen have this button that will lock this head right here. So now it's locked. With the head locked, you can take this wrench, and this is how you get the tool on and off. You can loosen that nut with this wrench. The cutoff wheel is thinner, so you put the nut on in a different way. This right here locks in, then you can spin it down and it'll lock this into place. If it was a thicker disc, you can turn it around and put it on this way. I tape these wrenches to the back end of the plug, that way you never lose them, and it forces you to unplug it while you use it. Here's the DeWalt grinder, and you can see that the wrench is a little different, but it does the same thing. When you look on the specs on this DeWalt, it's a 1/2 amp of power. Drillmaster is 4.3 amps, so it's about a 1/2 amp as well, just a little bit less than the DeWalt. I paid about $50 or $60 for this, probably about 10 years ago. Got this Drillmaster on sale at Harbor Freight for about $10. They're typically about $15 if you don't have the coupons or if they're not on sale. It's nice to have at least two angle grinders, because you want to have a cutting wheel on one and a grinder on the other, because you're continually taking them on and off if you don't have two of them. Just because you paid more for a tool doesn't necessarily mean that it's a better tool or a worse tool. Both of these angle grinders are about a 1/2 amp, and when you use either one, it feels they both do the same job in the same way. So which one of these would I rather have? If I had $50 to spend, which one would I get? I'd get 3 of these, because I could put a cutoff wheel on this, a grinder on this, sandpaper on another one. Let me give you an example. This is a drill that I bought from Harbor Freight. Literally, it was $10, probably about 20 years ago. I've replaced the plug on it like twice. This thing does an incredible job and continues to do an incredible job. Here's an Hitachi drill. A lot more expensive. It's got the hammer drill attachment on it. Which one works better at drilling through concrete? This one, because it's got an electric cord on it. This one's nice because it has the battery, but this one does a lot better job at some tasks than this one. This hammer drill has an adjustment at the top for speed, but even at the highest speed, it doesn't compare to the one with the cord. Not only does this lower cost tool work the same, but if you're on a job site and you're lending out your tools, nobody's going to want to steal a cheap one. They're going to want to steal something with a name brand like DeWalt on it. In fact, theft is such a big deal. I know people that'll just take cans of spray paint and spray it all over their tool to make it look ugly, so it's not as desirable to steal. I'm not saying that the cheapest tool is always the best, but you just have to use your head. If you're going to spend some additional money, you want to make sure that your blades that you're using are good quality. If you've got a Sawzall, you want to make sure that the blades that you're using are good. These Diablo are good. There's a lot of good brands, but make sure you have a good blade, even if you have a low-cost tool. Harbor Freight sells a lot of different types of these. My thought is, if you go with the lowest one, and it works, it works. Now, if you've got one of these cheaper ones, and you borrow your buddies, and you're like, wow, this thing's way better, well then yeah. Well then, at that point, you haven't lost much, and you've got an extra one that you can lend out, at the very least. If you're doing real heavy-duty grinding, obviously 1/2 amp is not going to handle it. You're going to have to go with a bigger unit altogether, but if you're looking apple to apples, this one definitely worked just as good as this one. I do know an awful lot of people that say, you get what you pay for. Well, I have to say, that's not always the case. Sometimes you just overpay. That comment will probably get a lot of people upset, but deep down, you know it's true. Now, I realize that not all tools are created. Here's a set of Klein cutters. This one's from Harbor Freight. They do the same thing, except they don't. These tools side by side, the Klein, these are like a $50 pair of pliers, and they work a lot better. These were $6. They're stiffer, the handles are a little bit shorter, they don't cut as well, but they do get the job done. If you're doing this stuff day in and day out, you're going to want some really nice tools like this Klein tool. It's a lot better, but it costs a lot more, and in this case, you do get what you pay for. Overall, what do I think of this Drillmaster? It does the job.